of the season as an overtime game winner. The Bruins have won 3 of their last 4.
Welcome back to the Hockey Hub. You just heard Judd Surratt with the overtime winner call on NESN as the Boston Bruins won 4-3 in OT, thanks to Marat Khusnutdinov, who had his first look on the top line.
Oh,
he
yeah.
also played a little. He was started out on the left wing, and he played a little bit of center because Elias Lindholm went down. So we're going to talk about all of that. We got some sound from Marco Sturm last night. That's very important, actually. PJ was talking about the identity of the team and what they are.
Yeah.
I wanted to get that sound in while we were doing the interview.
It was never going to happen.
But if you watched that last block, you understand that was crazy.
That was never going to happen.
No, it was never going to happen with PJ on. What did you think of now? Do you understand why I call him my little brother?
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
Crazy.
just keeping him to sit down was a
And as soon as I said, please don't leave your chair again, I was like, why did I say that? He's going to leave his chair.
Yeah, like you knew better.
Yeah.
But I love that kind of energy. Like,
Yeah.
I love his energy. I would buzz around to somebody like that, but very much
In doses.
Exactly. Like, I would just keep waiting for a moment. I was like, so do we ask him hockey things? And he was like, we talk hockey all the time. We're not doing that here. And I was like, we're not going to do that.
No.
Just follow his lead.
We talked, he had like 3 minutes of calm when he talked about, I think it was off of your question, and I was like, okay, we're getting some hockey analysis here, and then it all went to, you know what, after that. No, but that was super fun. We love having PJ on in doses, but we didn't really get to talk about the Boston Bruins and last night or get his take, so we're going to give you that right now. Again, we heard Marat Khusnutdinov's call, or Judd's call on Marat. What did you make of him on the first line? Did you hear that coach said earlier that he really earned his opportunity?
Yes.
Hard on pucks, good attitude, all that.
Yeah.
I like that. It also shows the Providence guys. This could happen to me.
Oh, yeah. It's a hopeful path. And, like, the other cool part about it, because I loved the storylines and I loved how you've actually mentioned before, like, how he's working on his English, which, like, I know that's something separate, but it just shows you, like, the hunger, the tenacity to just kind of, like, create this life for yourself. Creating a life for yourself means you're going to create opportunities for yourself with this roster. But I remember that looking into, you know, Fraser Mitten and looking into Khusnutdinov when they first came over here was just kind of like, well, what are the previous teams saying about them? And the scouting reports and whatnot. And Judd Brackett for the Minnesota Wild was saying just that he has this propensity about him. He can always adjust to be what you need, and he does it with such a humble chip on his shoulder. And you're talking about someone where the NHL, technically, by words of Minnesota Wild, the NHL is just waiting for him to get adjusted because the rink size is different and just kind of the expectation is different when you play in Europe. And he played for the KHL, had great numbers, I think 75 points through 162 games. Also was a center to Michkov, who's starting to find his identity with the Philadelphia Flyers. So he has all these things to his resume that just shows the leadership, the tenacity, and the hunger that he has in the most humble way. And then just put what Marco Sturm said on top of it, and it's just like, wow, you know that he's going to pave a way for himself. And Minnesota said that originally when they brought him in, it was because eventually they wanted to see him as a top 6 player, and I feel like he's showing that he's capable of that opportunity. So that was always attached to his name in the NHL.
No, I love that. I love that you bring up the KHL and his numbers there and what his roles were. So that's very cool, part of his resume. I did a car report yesterday, which is like I say what the lineup is after practice. And I had a lot of feedback from fans saying, like, Marat on the first line, like, things are tough for the Bruins. And my response was like, no, wait a second. Like, no, Brad Marchand was a 4th line player and moved his way up.
Morgan Geekie.
Yes, Morgan Geekie, exactly. And I'm not saying that that is what's going to happen, but I'm definitely not saying that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And if Marat had been in the NHL for 10 years and then and consistently a 4th line player, which we know 4th line players are very important as well, but then all of a sudden we're trying him on the first line, then I understand it's like, ooh, times are tough. This is a young kid with a lot of potential, and he had a good preseason, all XYZ, and like you said, his history in the KHL. You know, I didn't know much about that, but you can sure bet the coaching staff does.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, they're looking at that.
But you know the first thing that I do when anything comes up, I'm just like
Research?
Yeah, like I'm like how people doom scroll on TikTok. I like doom scroll players.
Girl, I'm the opposite. That's why this works well, because Casey can provide all the information, and I'll bring people on.
Or a good tandem. And you get the storylines.
And I get the storylines.
Exactly.
There you go. But with his history, knowing that now, that makes even more sense about what the coaching staff saw. And it's not like they're like, this is his permanent spot. They're trying something.
Yeah.
And it wasn't bad yesterday. Like, the overtime winner is different because
you have different people out there.
Yeah, it was like special teams were screwing things up. They had a PK and then a power play. So we didn't really see consistency there. And 3-on-3 is very different. But But yeah, no, I liked what I saw, and I feel like he's going to get more chances on that line. And like, that's okay, everyone. It's not like a desperation call. It's like, let's see what's going on.
100%. I actually love that you point that out because I did see people freaking out over it too. But it's just like, it kind of stinks. And that's probably a stigma that hopefully as the league continues to change, fans kind of get away from. But like, when you brought in Khusnutdinov, like he was never anticipated to be a fourth liner. And yes, he was playing on the bottom six with Minnesota, but if you look at it, it's because the identity was so solidified on their top six players. But the projection in terms of like where he was supposed to go, like I said, Judd Brackett was mentioning the fact that they brought him over to contend for a top six role. That is exactly what his numbers have shown. He was the captain of his KHL team, Sochi, I believe it was called, for his last 15 games being there. And then he was also the captain for the World Juniors team for Russia. So he has leadership caliber. He's got two-way ability, which fits the bill of this system. And whenever they've needed more speed, whenever they've needed something different, they've looked to Khusnutdinov. So I think that speaks to his potential to not just be a bottom six guy. I think it's the timing in which he came in and the fact that we were very much married to what the top six would look like. And now a lot of things are going to potentially change because the team hasn't fully solidified their identity yet.
No, and Marco Sturm made that very clear in training camp that he's going to be moving things around, I mean, indefinitely. And until you have like a perfection line like Bergie, Marshy, and Pasta, or if you have an, top line that's solid, you should be moving things around as a coach. Right? Top two, top six, bottom six. We have a lot of sound on Khusnutdinov, so we're going to get to some of that. Let's hear from Zadorov on Khusnutdinov.
I was really happy. No, it's great. I mean, he's a good player, good kid too. We've been close since he came here. Family's close. He's coming for trick and treating tomorrow, so I'm gonna be exciting. Yeah.
Are you dressing up tomorrow for your kids?
Yes.
What are you gonna be?
You will see tomorrow.
Did you say who's going with you?
Yeah, he will. Yeah, he's gonna hold my basket with my candies.
Zadorov having a little bit of fun there, and I'll get your take on that. Something we cut out though. I asked him about Khusnutdinov's English getting better, and he was joking around that. He's like, I don't think it's getting better, but yeah, he did say that. But he.
Oh my gosh, and you had a full report on it.
And I did have a full report. I said he's taking English lessons, and Zadorov's like, I don't think he is, and I'm like, no, he said he was. So unless he's lying to me, he said he was taking English lessons, but I've noticed it be a lot better. And one of the things I asked him, I said, do you encourage him to speak English in the room, or do you sometimes speak Russian to him? And he said, we don't speak Russian. It's a rule. So I don't know if that's a Bruins rule or if it's a personal rule. I'll look into that.
Help him out.
But that they maybe aren't allowed to speak other languages in the room, maybe. I like that because we have a couple checks. I like that just to keep everyone, inclusive and involved.
Well, it breaks the barriers of intimidation when you're like, because if you're speaking in other languages is already so intimidating because you don't want to get it wrong and you also don't want to be offensive. But I love something that Brick said yesterday on air. I believe he was saying like there's a universal language in the locker room anyway. And you want to make sure everybody's on the same page as to the universal language. I mean, not so much to that point, but I'm guessing that branches off as to why probably as much English as possible in the locker room.
And then sometimes guys get cliquey too. If there's like a bunch of French guys, a bunch of like Czech guys.
You'll stick to
Russian,
your own kind of thing.
And they don't want that. So anyway, I liked learning that. Your take on that clip and just Zadorov and Khusnutdinov.
I was going to say, on top of my natural love for Zadorov, just to see him like having a good time there, like he has this reputation about him already, and that's because you don't see much of that. So I love the whole like, oh, you'll see my costume when you see it kind of thing. But also, it's nice to know that like Khusnutdinov does have somebody in a family to go to because he is a very family-oriented guy and to be a part of it. But something I said this morning on Boston's End of their chat is I was like, what an enforcer thing to say that like he's coming to trick or treat with me and my family, but he's going to hold my basket.
Right.
So I was just like, you can already see some of like a familia stance between those two, which I think is great. It just helps him get more comfortable.
Yes, and he has in the summers, I think like Zadorov helped him with it, like a storage locker, Khusnutdinov was saying, or he got to store his stuff at his place. Like he's taking him under his wing, which is really nice. But again, I love that in the room, only English, no Russian. And I think it's very important for Khusnutdinov and his wife to have somebody like the Zadorov family to go to. Not to like jump around because I can talk about Khusnutdinov for a while,
We can
but
jump.
just to give an update on Elias Lindholm. So
Yeah.
he wasn't obviously skating this morning. Well, I guess that wasn't obvious, but he wasn't skating this morning, and he's got to have an MRI and then be reevaluated. But the team is assuming he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. Hampus Lindholm also not at practice, but we're assuming it's just because he's with his family.
Yeah.
And the new baby that they had, if you hadn't heard, baby Magnolia, they had just a couple of days ago or yesterday, and so that's why Hampus wasn't there. But with Elias Lindholm out, Khusnutdinov is going to get a little bit more looks at center. I'd love to hear from David Pastrnak about Khusnutdinov, and then we can talk about that.
Yeah, he's obviously very skilled, very fast, you know, and high-end skilled player that works really hard and is super fast. So obviously, just to use his speed, you know, I told him fastest, you know, in our team. So I will found him to just keep skating, you know. I try found him even if he's ahead, probably most of the times than me. But yeah, it was a lot of fun so far, you know. He's been fun to play with, you know. He's very strong on the puck for his size, you know, and he's unbelievable on forecheck. So far it was fun, and hopefully we can build more and more chemistry.
Yeah, how much do you think that goal will help his overall confidence?
Yeah, I mean, of course it's you know, you get to promote it to the top 6. You know, you obviously want to produce, so that's good that he, you know, get on the board, and at the same time, you know, hopefully many more are coming his way.
I mean, I like that confidence vote from one of the best players in the league, David Pastrnak. Not only, and I can tell it's genuine. Not saying players aren't genuine,
Yeah.
but if you're asked about a teammate, you're not going to be like, "Listen, it sucked."
Yeah.
You're not going to say that to the media, 100%. And
You have your other general jargon that feels kind
Yeah.
of like the typical response versus like something more authentic in that sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. And I feel like I've been around Pasta enough to know that sounded very authentic, and I could feel maybe even the excitement from him because like. Pasta's such a creative player. He obviously has learned to play with Elias Lindholm, Morgan Geekie, the two of them. That was so fun. And when you're feeling chemistry, like it's more fun for you.
Yeah.
One game, small sample size, but and obviously some practices. It feels like Pasta is like, yeah, I'm excited for what this can mean for Marat, but for him too.
Well, every once in a while, well, not every once in a while, I got a theory. Because Marat has been known to have like defensive responsibilities to his game. And I've said it a couple weeks ago now, considering like the leader that Pasta is, he'll do whatever it takes for this team. But if he's playing with somebody who is very defensively sound next to him, I feel like he can go and be free. And like, I know we're all looking for the free version of Pasta. So like him and Geekie already have an understanding. Khusnutdinov, if he can help contribute to the scoring, yes, but if he can be so defensively responsible that Pasta can just go out there and be freaking Pasta, this can end up being like a fun top line to watch.
Yeah, 100%. I'm loving that we're going to likely get more looks on that. They're playing tomorrow, they being the Boston Bruins, at 1 p.m. a matinee game. Love the matinee games. That is tomorrow, but for now, we're going to send this to break. It is Halloween, if you can't tell by our set.
Yeah.
It is Halloween, so Casey and I are going to talk a little bit of Halloween fun on the other side of the break.